Okay, now that we have printed out our artwork, we have it on our piece of letter size paper. We've sized it to the paper, it's printed, and what we're going to do next is we're going to cut out all the black parts to make our holes, to make our stencil, so that the ink can go through these holes. All right. First, I want to show you a quick safety tip. What we want to do is you always want to make sure your hand is not in front of your knife, because what's going to happen is you're going to slip and you're going to cut your hand. And Mr. Culp does not like blood, so we don't want that to happen. So what you want to do is keep your hand above your knife and then pull your knife towards you. All right. I hold my knife like a pencil. Depending on how you hold it, it's probably the best way to hold it. All right, just like you're drawing or writing, and you want to pull your knife. The other nice trick I like to do is if you're trying to cut a curve, I turn my paper instead of trying to turn my knife all different ways. I think it's a better way to hold your knife. So if you have a curve, and I'm just freehanding this, you can cut that piece out pretty quick. All right, so that's safety tip on your knife. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna start by cutting, and just follow my lines. You're just gonna take your time. All right, if you overlap your cuts, it will pop off the page. Pretty easy. And just gonna take your time. So like, instead of holding my knife this way, I can turn it and pull down, pull towards me. All right, and you can use the point of your knife to pick up and remove that piece. So I'm going to do my H here. One thing you have to be careful about is when the paper gets really thin, it could rip. And I'm going to turn it this way. So this piece here, this little area here is really thin, so you gotta be really careful, because as you start to cut the paper away, the paper gets weak because it's so thin. And even though we're using the heavy paper, it can tear. So I just use my point, pick that out. All right. So I've already cut this, and you will see that all my pieces are gonna come out. And don't worry if they're not perfect, that's okay. It's an imperfect stencil system, and that's okay. It's okay to be rough. So I'm popping these out. What you can do too is on the back of your sheet, you can see where you missed some of the cuts. You can see here that I missed a cut. And as you can see here where it's kind of weak and it's moving. See how it's moving there? So we want to be careful. I'm going to cut through my paper where I've missed some of my cuts or I haven't overlapped. If you overlap your corners, these will pop right out. I'm just using the point of my knife to push under, and then I'm just peeling these off. This is a more complicated design. And I gotta be careful when I tear, so I don't want to rip the thin points, parts. See the A? There we go. All right, so all my letters are out. Now you'll notice here on Mr. Mandalore's head that it's a little floppity. So I could have used a bridge, and I'm going to talk to you about bridges in a minute. But you'll also notice, and I told you about the ripping paper, that this piece ripped. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a piece of tape and kind of fix it back. And repair it, so don't worry if it rips. We can fix it with tape. All right, and I'm gonna put some tape on the other side. And that will keep it strong. And then I just gotta cut the tape away from my clear area. And that should just pop right out. There comes the tape. And again, don't worry if it rips. I will be around to help you fix or repair. Obviously, the more complicated your artwork, you want to take a little more time. Sometimes a simple logo will be very quick, but don't be afraid to be challenged. So see that? So now that's all repaired. What I think I might do is I might add a piece of tape to this piece, because that's just gonna flop all over the place. Oops. And probably will rip on screen, so I want to kind of tape it to the other piece here. And I'm gonna cut a little bridge here. So that doesn't flop around. And then we'll paint that and fix that hole when we're on the press. And there we go. We have our holes in our paper. And I'm just going to show you. You will see. You see. Oops, there's a piece there. And there's our artwork ready for our screen.